Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Connecting Dots podcast. I'm your host, Osama, and in particular, I'd be very honest, I'm very excited today because I'm connected with one of my seniors from my undergrad time. It's been almost about 7, 8 years since I've seen it, but I'm very thankful that we've reconnected again. And now, considering that he has a lot of technical experience and he has firmly established himself in the tech industry, specifically in cloud. So, with that, Musa Khalid, I formally welcome you to the show. How are you doing today?
Hey, Osama. I'm doing great. Thank you for having me on the podcast. I've been, watching you grow as well. I didn't get to meet you as much in university, but I'm glad to hear that you're from FAST as well, and had a good time there. And really, great to see that our graduates are, doing great things all over the world, including yourself. But really glad to be here.
Cool. Thank you so much. So, with that, let's get started. Since you almost have a decade long career in computing, I would say in general, because your transition is a little interesting to me because you were in telecom, then you kind of transitioned towards cloud, and then you went on to actually establish yourself in that industry. So, give us a little bit of an elevator pitch, I'd say, about yourself and how was your career evolution for you.
Yeah. So you're right. I graduated with the BS Telecom from Lahore, Pakistan, and I remember that at that point in time, I was enamored with telecommunication. I wanted to end up in a company like any telecom company which was doing great things. Which initially I kind of did. I ended up working for a third-party vendor of this large telecom operator in Pakistan called Mobilink. But I just quickly noticed that all the technology is basically built off same platforms. It's just that you end up controlling or handling one specific part of it, right? So I remember like the first day I was in there, I had learned about antennas and wave propagation. And we just discussed before this podcast too that we have like these subjects in class. But my job wasn't that at all. So when I joined, I was working on Linux and MySQL databases and whatnot. And to me, that felt like, I'm not doing what my education prepared me to. But at the same time, I was getting, I was, garnering a passion for this technology. And thanks to my mentor back at the first job that I was in, I built quite a bit of passion for this. I started writing a bit of scripts and stuff. And that's how I got started into, my segue into this industry away from telecom already started with my first job. And I was happy with it. But 2 years into this job, I finally was able to secure a job at Ericsson, which is a leading telecommunications provider. And this job was more to do with telco, but on the mediation and billing and integration side. And I was on the value-added services side, where you handle how users are provisioned into networks and
Right.
how users avail the
So, you were
services.
basically in the core side.
So I was the technical term for my department was value-added services or VAS. So value-added services is considered anything that is not telephony. So SMS, MMS, all the school little services that you have on the on your network orbit on the side, like voicemail and whatnot. So yeah, I was in there, but the more interesting part was that I was still working a lot on kind of DevOps related technologies, Linux, databases, high availability and stuff. And that's when my interest started to fade away from telecom, actually. If you had asked me 2 years ago before that, what I wanted to do, I would have told you that I wanted to be an RF engineer who was out there calculating the signals between towers, but I was already moving away from that. And that's when, even at work, I tried to get those projects, work on those things which were more related to, DevOps related technologies. And the sad part of this was that, telecom operators, I will talk about this later in the podcast as well, that they are a bit more on the, private data center sides. They don't tend to have the data centers hosted elsewhere because of, data constraints and whatnot. And this was 10 years ago. So the constraint was that the technology was very much limited to what our company rolled out the stuff on. So we weren't allowed to bring in other OSs, other tools. But yeah, my interest was growing, and when I moved to the States, I got a chance to go crazy with any technology I wanted, and thankfully, I ended up having a bit of a interest in cloud computing, and that's where I started doing my certifications and finding jobs which allowed me to work in that field.
Gotcha. Excellent. So let me ask you this in specific. What does this title, site reliability, entail? So I'll give you a little bit of a preface. So the thing is, I've noticed a lot of people with this title on LinkedIn specifically who post a lot about DevOps. So I kind of had this confusion as well. That what is it? What does this title mean in specific? So maybe I guess you're the right person to talk to about it. So give me an elevator pitch of sorts about it.
Yeah, so site reliability and engineering. I think the more focus is on reliability here. And any SRE that you'll talk to, they'll only mostly focus on how you want to keep the systems available, serving whatever services they're running, and optimize them for the futures, be able to scale them. But this is just like your average run-of-the-mill description of this position. And now in this day and age, SRE could be working across a host of functions. They could be more on the development side, and I'll talk about this in a second too, or could be on the ops side. But mainly, and this is my opinion, that SREs are supposed to be embedded across both these disciplines of development, and ops, and with a bridge between them. Now you'll see the term DevOps as well, and I know there's like a million definitions of this, but by my standards, what I'll say is that anyone who has a common sense about caring about your services, keeping them available, highly available, deciding how to fail over in case something happens, a data center blows up, you as an SRE should have a plan in your head about what should be happening if things go south. And also in good days, when just things are working seamlessly, you as an SRE are supposed to think about, okay, how can I make my life easier by automating the toil away? By that, I mean backups and optimizations and refreshing systems. All that things come into this one umbrella of SRE. The main goal being that you want to be the gate between the customers who are actually accessing your service, trying to keep them optimized and highly available. So I think I probably said highly available about 10 times in this last conversation. But yeah, that's what it entails. Yeah.
So just a follow-up question maybe on this. So let's say you as an SRE, you came up with, let's say, a feasibility that, hey, in order for us to achieve an X initiative, we need to invest Y resources into something, right? So would you be the person to get this approved from the stakeholders, or would you rather talk to someone else, a project manager or someone who would rather get an approval for you? Let's say it might be in terms of cost, it might be in terms of space or resources or headcount in total. So what does that situation look like in this case?
Sure. So with being an engineer, you kind of like focus more on the technical weeds of stuff. But as a team or as an individual engineer, you are expected to actually, the higher up you go in this position, you're expected to go to people and convince them. And just with any engineer, you're expected to bring up the metrics, right? So I mentioned feasibility. If I was ever to bring this up to my management and say, what, I can save you X amount of dollars on this, they would expect me to come up with some metrics about, how much we are spending today, how that's going to affect the future scalability of our product. And, so bring these metrics to them. To answer your question, I wouldn't be the stakeholder of making that exact decision alone, but I definitely have the power to sway the whoever is in charge of this in the direction that I want them to go. Obviously, not as a personal a personal objective, but as an objective that makes our lives easy and saves the company money as well. So yeah, we can go to the management and prove to them with the metrics.
Perfect. So how did you develop an interest to start in this position?
I think with this position, honestly, I wasn't like targeting a position which included this title SRE in there. I was more interested in cloud technologies, honestly. And whenever I would like look for a new role that I wanted to be in, I would, okay, titles are really flashy. Sometimes they'll make you feel good about yourself, and they certainly do. But in my case, I was just looking through the job description. In the interviews, I would very heavily question my interviewers about, what is it that I'll be doing? Is it something cool? Is it something that I'll be like, after work, I'll be like, hey, I did cool stuff. I was able to affect millions, or even, not billions yet, but millions of users just by my actions. So the I think the main premise of me looking for such a position was just being able to work at scale and be able to work with bleeding edge technologies. And all those technologies include AWS, all these public clouds, and DevOps tools. The number one myth for me would be, knowing how to code. I know coding is generally something that comes in very useful, but a lot of these job descriptions will say that we need 7 to 8 years of highly evolved coding experience from a person, and my role certainly requires me to code. But in my opinion, that's sort of like I wouldn't say like that. Kind of scares the candidates away to the ones who haven't coded as well as they think they should. And I think the myth that I busted here was that you're required to code, but more than that, you're expected to be sensible with how and when you want to code and be able to read code, right? So as an SRE, you're going to work with systems for which code has already been written, and sometimes you may have to write code for automation to make things integrate, to make things work more smoothly. But I think that's one bit that was busted for me, that people will assume that if you're in software, then your only goal is to write software. Sometimes your goal is to make it more reliable, sometimes your goal is to fix bugs, and most of this involves just common sense, be able to read and write and think in that pseudo code. So that's a myth that I definitely think should be, and that may not be true for all the companies out there, but certainly not true for each and every company out there hiring for a software engineer. They just want sensible people.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe I'll build on it a little further. That before I started in cloud, it's been about a year and a half, almost year and a half since I've started, since I transitioned to the cloud department. So the thing is, what I used to do was I used to look at job openings at all of these big giants. Well, Fang is the least to say, but like any of the companies that would have been working in cloud, I used to read their job description. And honestly, man, I'll tell you what, I started keeping a list of the acronyms that I didn't know about, and I was amazed to see that that list grew so much. And I was like, man, like every 2 months or so, there's something new coming out, and you're supposed to, know about it and everything. But thanks to the YouTuber community out there, and people have been doing great in, demystifying different things or explaining things, creating tutorials about it. So I think that has really helped in at least myself. I would talk about that in ramping myself up about in terms of technology. That has really helped me. So kudos to that. So tell me a little bit about your aCloud Guru journey. I was so happy seeing you doing that stuff over there, and honestly, that has a bit of sentimental value for myself as well in there, because I like teaching in general as well. My mom was a teacher, and I had that trait in me. So tell me a little bit about how that started, and how was that experience for you?
Oh, interesting. And this, before I dive into my time with aCloud Guru, what I'll tell you is that it is one of the most rewarding jobs I ever had, both in terms of life goals and being able to work at an amazing company. I was only have good things to say about them. So when I moved to America, I'll just go a little bit into the history of how I got to this position. I'm a person who was scared of talking to people, not scared, but not in the mood to talk to more than a couple of people to explain to them technology or things otherwise. So when I moved here to America, I've been living in Pakistan for 27 years of my life before I moved here. My absolute fear was conversing in English and being able to, articulate my ideas in a very nice way. And so after my first job was with a monitoring and observability company, and I kept talking to them about how they could move stuff to AWS, and I even helped them with a couple of small projects with AWS and public cloud. And through that company, I got to attend a conference in Las Vegas that happens yearly. It's called AWS reInvent. It's Amazon's annual conference, and I got to meet people at Linux Academy. So Linux Academy was the original company that I joined. So I got to meet the instructors, the architects at a booth at that conference, and that really piqued my interest. And I even met a couple of people who actually told me, you know what, your passion for this thing, being at a small company pushing for cloud is very, appreciated. Why don't you apply for positions? But what scared me was talking to hundreds of thousands of people. It's hard. So when I interviewed with them, they asked me to create a video. Part of the interviewing process is to create a little learning video to show them how you can do stuff. And they eventually extended me an offer. And I remember talking with the manager that before I accepted the offer, as to did they believe I could succeed in this position, because I've never taught people, much less in English or other language, my native language being Urdu. And he's like, you know what? You don't see it in you, but we know the skill that you have for this. The passion comes from within you. Doesn't matter what language you speak. So I got in, and they were amazing. They gave me a course on serverless to create, to teach people. They gave me the autonomy to select the syllabus. And my first course went out, and the best part was that apart from correcting stuff syntactically, my managers and no one gave me feedback which was critical and would put me off. So my course went out, and you sometimes get anonymous feedback, you sometimes get directed feedback, and the feedback was tough sometimes. People would absolutely go for even your voice, the way you look, or the way you speak, and or the way you taught something. So that hardened me. I remember, people literally would put comments about, I can't understand your accent, which I don't blame them. If they can't, they can't, right? But that hardened me, and that's what taught me over there that, what, sometimes in life you have to go past your fears, your barriers, to break free and get that confidence. And that one single course gave me so much confidence, that I went on to create 5 6 courses with aCloudGuru. I went on to attend many. I've got a lot of, I think most of them would be deprecated at this point. Some of them are still active, Terraform courses. But I got to go to reInvent with aCloudGuru. So the great thing was that I was, one year I was coming to the booth as a customer, as a user of their website, and the next year I was going as their employee. And I got to talk to a lot of people, Usama, a lot of people who were way more talented than I'll ever be. I'll admit that right now. I'm not the most talented person in the room at times, but that's not the point. The point is, I noticed that a lot of people would come up to me and say, like, what, we love your passion. How did you come into this industry? How did you end up in AWS? And they were like, these were senior solutions architects. These were like really highly ranked people who were coming up to me, and that gave me confidence. I thought that, what, if I can kind of like give them the impression that I'm really successful just because I teach courses, then I can motivate myself to do even better. And the highlight of my career with aCloudGuru was that uh, I, uh, I I made all these courses, and before I left, I had this webinar where I talked in front of about 200 people, which was crazy, given that I was so apprehensive about public speaking. And even after the webinar, I got some appreciation. I was like, what, I don't know if people were sane or not, but they appreciated that I was able to talk to them about technology. And that was like the best time. So even after I've left aCloudGuru, I still have a lot of people who look at my courses and they'll reach out to me. And that's the one thing that I encourage people to do. Always reach out. Don't think about if I create the course, just reach out to me as a friend, because I'm as interested in the technology as you are. I do make mistakes. My courses may not be perfect, but if you find a mistake, do reach out to me. I'll work with you, because I'm still learning. Having been in this industry for 10 years, I'm still learning every single day. So aCloudGuru, one of the best experiences I had. Eventually, I had to leave because my own selfish passion reasons for technology that I wanted to be more in the weeds with, in the trenches. But I would, in a heartbeat, go back and work with aCloudGuru in the future if I have to.
That's excellent, man. And I'm pretty sure that aCloudGuru would be very happy to have you on board as well. Then you must have been a very useful asset. Well, going a little bit off tangent, not too much. I think you might be the right person to ask this question, since you are pretty deep in the technology and not too wide either. So, what is the value proposition that you think is there for getting or completing the certification track for a certain cloud technology? How to plan for it, maybe, and how to get the maximum benefit out of it? Because certainly you do need to, first of all, get serious about it and then allocate time to it. So, what's your take on that?
Oh, wow, that's a question that I've lived through. Actually, honestly, I've uh, when I moved to the States from Pakistan, I was without a job for about 6 months, because I literally got rejected from every single company. I still have this Excel sheet somewhere in my old laptop where I had the list of companies that rejected me, what version of my resume I sent them, and if they even got back to me. And that's how I would improve my resume. But almost about 5 months of not being able to find a job, because I thought I was coming from a good background in technology from Pakistan, and I was so wrong. I just started noticing this cloud computing thing. For me, the value proposition for anyone, honestly, for a person who's not running a company, just wants to learn, is the accessibility. Not everyone on this planet has access to high grade servers or even extra laptops to run their virtual machines on. So the value proposition for me was I could just log into a UI, spin up a system, and back then, and still AWS gives you free credits to work off. So for me, it was, you know what, I wanted to revise coding, I wanted to revise Linux and stuff. So I would spin up servers, play around with them. And in doing that, I wasn't preparing for AWS certification. But I noticed that people were talking about, AWS, this cloud computing, and it has a certification. And anything that has the term solutions architect in it definitely was going to be like impressing me. I was like, I want to be a solutions architect. How do you become one? And that is what increased my interest in this certification. So I was without a job. I had a lot of time on my hands, and I was already using AWS to spin up VMs and play around with stuff. So I did my first certification. I prepared for it a month, and I still didn't have a job by the time I passed the certification. But what the certification did for me was that it got me noticed. So I posted on LinkedIn, and I'll be this full disclaimer: I have used LinkedIn as a tool to attract people to look at my profile before, like, I got into these stable positions that I'm in now, right now, and that did get me noticed. So a few recruiters reached out to me. They talked to me about, what they thought, that doing this solutions architect associate certification was the most difficult and the most coolest thing back. This was in 2016. So they were like, wow, you've done this. And they made me feel like I knew every single thing about AWS. Like, oh, you must be the whiz kid. I would just, like, let them say whatever they wanted to say just to, like, be able to get through the door. So my first instinct, my first feedback with certification is it will get your foot through the door. Certifications do not account for more than that, because an employer will not look at your certification and say, like, I'll give this guy a job. They'll definitely want to interview you and see how much experience you have, how much on the ground can you actually work with this technology. So I did certification, but if you're taking good learning out of it, if you're literally focusing on stuff and you are actually, recreating the scenarios that the certification questions have, or have worked through those scenarios, that's when I'll say that the real benefit of certification is in your, career life, in your job as well. A lot of people nowadays will, think that it's the converse, that doing a certification will get them a job. That's, in my opinion, it's definitely not true. Although I am a huge proponent for, AWS certifications, I'm just too short of getting all my AWS certifications. But my advice to anyone doing this would be to really know the fact, no shying away from this. It will get you noticed. It will get people to say, like, okay, this guy knows how to learn. What a certification tells an employer or a person is that this guy can learn and has this base level knowledge about this technology, and then they'll definitely interview you anyways. So do take it in that spirit. So do the certifications, spend time reading, writing, so not writing but reading through the material and actually trying to recreate those scenarios. So about the track you mentioned, the tracks, there's a few tracks in public cloud as well. And I think what a lot of people will, needlessly complicate public cloud about is that it's, and you might have heard this term before as well, it's just somebody else's computer. There's no difference except for the fact that somebody else is providing the electricity and the backup generators for the system. Otherwise, you can go crazy on the system within the system, right? It's like you can log in, you can crash it, you can do whatever, short of like doing something criminal. But that's the value, like, that's what I would say is the best thing about, cloud computing. So just remember that. Don't complicate it, but just think that, it's something much more complex than you think it is. So do the certifications. Just know that it's just in a data center that you can access over the internet. So take it in that stead. The tracks for this is you can either be, just like you could be a developer working on your own laptop, you could be a developer in AWS creating services, writing code for products, or you could be writing code for spinning up the infrastructure on a public cloud. So the tracks could be developer, you could be an infrastructure an expert, or you could be a sysops admin, or someone who works with monitoring and optimizing the cost of AWS. So I'm pretty sure I'm not like aligning my thoughts about tracks are with what AWS has tracks for. They have dev, and then they have like architects and whatnot. But this is my personal opinion. So you need to decide before you go on if you want to focus more on the development side, if you want to be on the DevOps side where you are integrating different AWS services or even like other services with AWS outside of AWS, or if you want to be like the guy who wants to work on optimizing, monitoring, and that's honestly true for most technology roles. So these are some of the tracks, and this is what my view about certifications is, honestly.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. That was a very detailed overview, and I'm sure. I mean, certainly, I could benefit from it, and I'm sure people who are tuning in, they might seek some sort of value in there. Anyways, coming back to SRE for now. So I would talk to you about the work-life balance. So now I see it as some sort of a senior leadership role. So in that regard, how does a work-life balance look like for you?
Honestly, it would vary by company, but one thing that I can say about my current employer Workday is that work-life balance has been short of nothing of amazing. It's been amazing, and the reason for that is that now I have a kid, I have a wife at home, I work from home, and as you progress in your career, you want to take time back to give back to your family and the community. And if you can't do that, no matter how much rewarding your job is, you're going to eventually come back right after work and say, you know what, I don't feel like I'm giving back or living my life the way I wanted to. Because the reason for getting better jobs is better compensation and a good work life balance. So, one thing is that Workday has been amazing with that. I've been able to dedicate a lot of time to being at home and still enjoying life. I found a new passion of traveling because I've been able to find more time away from work, and that just makes me come back to work with even more passion because I'm like nobody's forcing me to do anything. So work-life balance is amazing. But having said that, you have to realize that site reliability engineering, it has the term reliability, and things are very unreliable in technology. Networks will fail, systems will fail, developers will write bugs into code, and no judgment on developers. It's just that we're all humans. Even SREs make mistakes. So for that reason, sometimes you will have to be called. You'll be on call. Sometimes you'll be called in to fix issues, but but that'll be like for a certain part of the week, and you'll be compensated well for that as well. So most on calls are compensated very well by any company that is incurring on call. So yeah, that is something that you, as an SRE or as any person who's looking after production systems, he's going to be like, or he or she is going to be like in charge of maybe working on weekends, but you'll be notified. You'll have this certain window. So the work-life balance for this role is a bit more demanding than other roles that don't require on-calls. And I believe most SRE roles would involve being on call at certain part of a month for like probably 3 or 4 days. Not with the Workday yet. I think my personal not a tradition, but something I do is that in such a big company, I mean, Workday is probably like, if I was to take a guess, 15, 16,000 people big, strong. I like to, try to like poke my nose into other people's, projects, and not for the wrong reasons. I just want to learn. So one thing I do is like, I'll absolutely want to, ping people, and if I see that I can help someone somewhere with the knowledge that I have, I'll absolutely like just like have this tradition. Like I'll look at the projects, and if I can, give my expertise. I don't want it for like, getting the recognition. Just want to be able to help with the skills that I have. So that's like something that I like to do. And also, I like to, ever since COVID, we haven't been face to face. And you might have noticed I'm a very jumpy person. I like to talk a lot, and I like to be in person. So one thing that I'll do is like I'll absolutely try to keep things light. I'll try to crack jokes and have inside jokes with my colleagues who I've never met. So I've worked with this current company for about almost 1.5 year, and I worked with aCloudGuru, and I only got to meet my colleagues once in the 3 years I worked, 2 years that I worked there. So it's very important for me to have this tradition of just having jokes and keeping things light, and keep bringing up the human side of things.
Gotcha, gotcha. So, other than your professional life, Musa, do you ever see yourself either going for a PhD to, strengthen your technical expertise, or rather getting an MBA in order for you to, join the comrades of the higher, upper level management?
That's a great question. So, that's a question that I have transitory thoughts about every other month, and then those thoughts go away. So I'll be honest. Like I wasn't built for the academia. Like I wasn't. My brain wasn't built to learn and sit in a classroom. And I learned that in FAST in Lahore. That the 4 years that I spent there, I still think that I could have just spent 2 years there, focus on the things that I have a career in right now, and just leave, be a kind of a dropout. But yeah, when I think of those things, I think the value for a PhD for me doesn't, the time spent, because money is an aspect as well. It does cost some money, even if your employer is paying for your education. But the time I think could be well spent in just getting deeper into the technologies that I work with and learn by doing. So I'm already in this position. I'm not into, what our company considers leadership is someone who's able to make decisions for the organization. So we're not into in a leadership position, but we do have a seniority within the team. So we have directors that we work under, and so as a leader in the team, I am supposed to mentor people and step in whenever I feel like the team is under duress because of work or other reasons. And I think that gives you a little bit of taste of how to manage people, manage people less, but be, how to handle people. And if you look at management is more about not managing people but handling people. And you could be doing that in any role. So when you work with 5 different teams, you know how their work style is, how their managers react, and how they uphold their SLAs. So I believe that handling people is something that I'm already learning, and I don't see myself going into school, split my time between work and school, and then not have enough time for my family. So not yet. I might go for MBA in the next few years, but that's like a slight chance, and that's only because I am getting all the stuff that I've wanted out of my job and my life as we speak.
Gotcha. Well, although you did hint about it a little bit, but if you were to formally put it into words, what do you think are the traits that make a good leader?
Oh, good question. I think I'll say that number one for me, a good leader is decisive. Someone who can, not uh, confuse his, mentees or whoever is managing about the decisions is going to come up with, because a lot of times it's the uncertainty about what your manager is thinking for you, because you are supposed to be leading people, and if the people don't believe in your vision or your ability to decide well for them, they won't have the trust that you want them to have in you. So number one would be decisiveness. Just be able to, gather everyone's thoughts and be decisive. But more importantly, I think it'll be humility. One thing that I've learned in my career is not like a 50-year long career. I've been only in this for about this is my 10th year. In fact, I started my first job in 2012. I think humility is something that you can never have enough of, honestly. As humans, we tend to go into these positions, we get these we learn things, we get into these positions, and somewhere, we, and not saying for this for everyone, but because we're human, we built our egos up, right? So humility is absolutely important. You need to talk to every single person in your life as if you're learning something from them. You be ready and be open to learn things from other people. So when I mentor people in my current role, I will absolutely talk to them as if I'm learning something from them. I know the objective is for me to teach them, for me to lead them, but if you go into a room with the open mind of learning something, you come out as a better person yourself, and the other people also see you as a person who's approachable. And then the last thing a leader should have is, what do I say, just passion for their vision, honestly. Uh, just be able to really exhibit why they want the people they're leading to do the things they want them to do. If I want to reduce the cost of my business, am I just doing lip service, or am I actually in the grounds actually thinking that, is this possible for the engineers on my team to be able to do? Is it going to put stress on them to try to reduce the cost of service X or whatnot? So I would say, like, decisiveness, humility, very important. Humility is the top for me, honestly. I should have said humility first, and then the last one would be the passion for their mission.
Right, gotcha. So that leads me to my next question. Since success is a moving target and it varies from person to person, considering the current phase of life that you're in right now, what does success look like and mean to you?
Oh, that's a good question. Uh, for me, success would be respect. Gaining the respect of the community and gaining the respect of your peers because of the work ethic that you have and the work that you do. As an engineer, you want to be very technically talented and sound, and that's true for any engineer, honestly, Osama. All the engineers want to be able to write the best code, save the company millions of bucks, and be considered a technical rock star. But you'll notice that even in that, if you are not able to get the respect of the community and the peers around you, that's I think that's a lost cause. So number one for me would be a measure of success would be how well respected you are both by your peers and your within your circles and the community, and how much they respect your opinion. Because the more you're respected, the more your opinions are respected, and the more you can influence people on the right path. So for me, a good indicator of success is respect in the community.
Perfect. So other than that, what things excite you in life in general?
Oh, I mean, now excite me would be my 4-year-old son, but only because he might jump on me when I'm sleeping. So I mean, I gotta be more less excited, more fearful about if he's gonna knock me out when I'm sleeping. But exciting is something that I've started in the last few years is traveling, especially after COVID. I've always like been a person who has been very kind of nerdy. I tend to spend a lot of time in front of the computer, whether it's like technical stuff or otherwise. And I didn't like have the opportunity to travel a lot. So something that excites me more about my role and my life is that I like to travel. So you'll see that if my company wants me to go to like some other country or some other city for attending a conference or meeting team, I'm absolutely up for it. I'm very excited about it. In fact, I'll be traveling later this year as well, to hopefully to reinvent if I can. So that's number one thing that excites me. The other thing would be just my hobbies actually, and certifications and preparing for certification is a kind of a hobby. And what excites me is just adding to that list of knowledge that I've already gained by doing more certifications. And I think that these are the two things. Other than that, I just follow soccer. I like. I hope people don't, judge me on this. I'm not like a very vocal follower, but I do support Arsenal. So, and I love watching soccer. What excites me is if Arsenal can just come back to their old ways, that'd be really great. So, sports is something that excites me. I like playing cricket. I like playing soccer. Not too much of a fan of baseball, having moved to the States yet, but my son is into it. And hopefully he'll get me into more sports too.
Cool, cool. So now I see technology, not cloud computing, but rather I see cloud technology as an enabler of sorts. And you can rather plug this engine anywhere and get some benefit out of you. So, what are some of the global challenges of the world that you think can possibly be solved by cloud computing?
Oh, cloud computing. I think when you think about cloud computing, it's number one, the accessibility to technology. So any organization which is stunted by their inability to procure or pay for infrastructure or be able to use infrastructure within their vicinity, I mean, this is the best opportunity ever. It has like low cost to start up, and you get access to the world's top technologies, just like my company does. Like right now, I'm with a company that uses AWS at an enterprise level, and if you wanted to wake up next day and want to like use the ML or AI services of AWS or GCP, you could do that right from your home. So I think the value for cloud computing in that is any company that wants to work in remote areas, have a very unique mission. The doors are open for them to use cloud computing to process their workloads or serve their service. The other one would be the community. How much the community has grown in these roles. So it's the barrier to learning and entering AWS or any cloud is very very minimized because of the knowledge that is around. You've got friends who are teaching it. I actually offer people to help them. Like I don't want to be like a proper tutor, but I want to like talk to them on AWS and just fix their issues. So I guess like yep.
Excellent. So I'll close off by my last question. Knowing what you know now, what do you think you would have done differently in your professional journey?
Oh, taken. I think this is such a cliched thing, but I think I would have taken more risks. You've got nothing to lose by sitting for an exam and failing. You've got nothing to lose by interviewing for a company that you are like scared of interviewing for because the interviews are tough. you know Nobody takes a note about one single person failing or one single person candidate not doing good. Like if you are not to perform well in life and in some certain thing like a certification or interview, the recruiters are not going to write your name and post it in their home saying like, you know what, Osama is this one guy I don't want to be like interviewing ever again because he did so bad. So just know that, what we also have this, like, what will people say or think? That is what destroys a lot of people's passion sometimes. So if I was to talk to myself as in the early parts of my career, I would have said that focus more on what you had passion for. The only cost of that would have been more time spent outside of work, because my work was very demanding when I started my career. So focus on that. Don't be scared of failing at all, because you don't like advertise your failures, and you people don't rank you on them either. Like, if I fail 10 times before I pass certification, the only thing that people will see on my LinkedIn profile is that, oh, this guy passed the certification, he must be so amazing. But they wouldn't ever know that I failed it 10 times unless I like go and write an article about it, which I will be happy to. So just know that, for myself, take risks. Don't be scared of failing at things. Don't be scared of taking these risks, and just focusing more on what you have a passion for. Because this is something that my one of my professors at FAST told me, that if you're passionate about something, if you are passionate enough, you'll create a career for yourself, even if the market is telling you that there's no room for this skill in the market right now. You will make a career for it, out of it, for yourself. So keep at your passion, and don't be scared of failures.
Perfect. Well, Musa, I honestly would want that I would have rather have more time to talk to you, but I guess we have now reached towards the closure of the conversation. I had a great time talking to you, and I wish you all the best in your professional career, and with your growing son as well. I really wish that you guys cherish and make the most beautiful memories ever. This podcast is going to be hosted on all major platforms, and for the audience, if you like the content, please feel free to like, share, and subscribe. And most importantly, provide us with your feedback. Show your support by buying me a coffee, and I'll provide the link for it in the description as well. And until the next episode, take care and stay tuned. Bye.